Former WBC heavyweight champion of the world Deontay Wilder remains undisputed when it comes to talking absolute bollocks. But there was one thing he said in the wake of his defeat to Tyson Fury this past Saturday, which actually resonated. He said that even the greatest fighters lose, which is true. The difference is, those great fighters, the reason they went down as great was because when they first tasted defeat, when it came knocking on their door, it led to a period of honest self-reflection, self-assessment, and opened up that new dimension to grow and to evolve. Now, in the heat of the moment, even great fighters, when they've lost, they can say little silly things to just try and patch up their wounded ego. But ultimately, as the days turn to weeks and months, they look at themselves, and as the old phrase goes, to fix a problem, you first have to recognize that there is one. It seems that there's so many problems with Deontay Wilder, so many issues that he can't process it and he has to point the finger, and has come up with that absolute doozy of an excuse that it was his costume that caused the defeat. When the great Joe Louis got taken out by Max Schmeling in 12 rounds way back in 1936, when he continually kept getting hammered with right hands over a lazy left hand, he had to ask himself, did I train as hard as I could have? Did I take in too many rounds of golf? And is there a fundamental error with me whereby every time I jab, the left hand comes back too low, which the German kept capitalizing on? He did, and he certainly made sure of it in the rematch, which didn't even last a round. Many years later, Vladimir Klitschko, he got beat by Lamont Brewster. Battered, was it in 5-6 rounds? He had to ask himself. He had to admit, maybe being aggressive isn't the best tactic. When I'm faced with guys with similar dimensions who can punch a bit, getting into a firefight isn't the best idea. I need to streamline my strengths to help guard my weaknesses. And that is exactly what he did. It didn't make for easy watching. It was just as punishing on the viewer as it was on the opponent. But again, the loss led to self-reflection, and as a result, he grew as a fighter. Anthony Joshua recently, of course, lost to Andy Ruiz last year. And I didn't think he was going to be able to change so much, but there's a key difference here. And that is that I always knew AJ had the ability to grow. It was just to do with time. He's not as naturally, or he's not as intuitive a boxer as Fury is, never will be. But he's a guy you can engineer in the gym. He listens and he will add certain things to his game. He did very well to add so much against Andy Ruiz in the rematch. Wilder is so woefully lacking in basic fundamental skills that it just seems incredibly hard now to be able to give him those things that he needs. And if we go back to the Louis example there, Joe Louis was a very young man at the time he lost to Max Schmeling. Deontay Wilder will be turning 35 this year, and it is very hard to teach an old dog new tricks. Very bad balance, and he even said himself in a boxing magazine about how his power is just too much for any style. But now that point has come back to haunt him. His defences have been so weak, and collectively against subpar opposition, nothing else has had to evolve in his game. When you keep getting by with the right hand, eventually you will find that will not always turn the trick. I don't want to use the word lucky, but he's done well for his limited skill set to have gone as far as it has. So much is lacking in his game, and Fury exposed that in a way he is finding tremendously hard to digest. Now, Eddie Hearn wants AJ against Fury, but he also said if he was Wilder's promoter, there's no option but to go for a third fight. Wilder doesn't want to get beaten by somebody lesser for less money, so it's probably going to happen. But different to AJ, who I felt always had the ability to add things to his game, Wilder is just so lacking with the core fundamentals that unless he's fighting the 400-pound version of Tyson Fury, He's going to need a miracle to win the rubber match.